2 weeks ago, on our 100th anniversary of being named the first basilica here in the United States, Archbishop Hebda was here for the 9:30 Mass and preached a beautiful homily. The gospel for that Sunday 2 weeks ago was the Beatitudes, which we hear throughout the year, but also at funerals as well from time to time. And the Beatitudes are the teaching of Matthew of what it means to be a disciple. So the Beatitudes are the characteristics of Christ and Christ's life laid out. And of course, we're disciples, right? That's who we were at our baptism. That's who we continue to be. Like me, right? You might struggle with that discipleship from time to time. But really putting on the person of Christ, which is our baptismal grace, and then living the characteristics of self-emptying, of righteousness, right relationship with God and neighbor. And Jesus is the one who follows God's commands, ultimately going to death, dying on a cross and being raised. And it's through that fidelity to God's will, the will of the Father, that we are restored and reconciled. So that invitation is again made today in the readings to become more like Christ. We heard in the first reading from Sirach, which represents the biblical genre of the wisdom literature, that if you choose, you can keep God's commandments. In other words, we have a choice, and we actually can keep and live God's commandments. Well, how do we do that? Well, as Christians, we have the great gift of God's grace that helps us. And I love the opening prayer, the opening collect today. Be so fashioned by God's grace that you can live a life pleasing to the Lord, right? Allow the Lord to dwell within you and to be seen by others as well. And we're called to even surpass the Pharisees in our desire for righteousness. Righteousness and justice are interchangeable terms in the Old Testament and the Hebrew Scripture. And it again means to live right relationship with God and neighbor at the same time. We hear in the second reading that the Spirit discloses God's wisdom. It's the Spirit that moves us into God's wisdom. And we hear that Paul says God's wisdom is mysterious. It's hidden. It's at times paradoxical. Look at the cross. It's from Christ's death on a cross, a brutal execution and death, that comes life and reconciliation. This is the mystery of God's wisdom, and it's often contrary to the wisdom of the world. You know, the wisdom of the world is upward mobility. My friend Father Pat Quinn used to talk about downward mobility. That's the wisdom of God and discipleship. And then finally, the gospel today really manifests the life of Christ, who lives in freedom, in love, and in generosity, and calls us to do the same, to live in a way that's free. The commands of the Lord are oriented to our good and flourishing. God knows what God is doing, right? So we follow them with faith. And then from that life of freedom, we can love. Like Mother Teresa and the great saints of our tradition, which are beautifully depicted here at the Basilica and in our chapel downstairs. We can love, and then we can live with generosity. So we will approach Lent, right, on Wednesday, the great discipline and time of Lent. We can put into practice this freedom, love, and generosity by seeking to follow Christ more faithfully. And we'll come out on Easter more happy, more faithful, more alive. I want to shift here for a minute. As you know, we have a generational undertaking, this project to completely and comprehensively restore the Basilica of St. Mary. Last week, we officially launched our Restoring Beauty, Inspiring Hope campaign. And this is a building of hope. It has been for more than 100 years. America's first basilica, an absolute architectural gem. Some of the greatest example of Beaux-Arts architecture in the country. It's been a place where in these pews for over 100 years, People have brought all sorts of petitions and prayers to God. Lives changed. People coming into the church, converts, a great gift to the church. This has all happened within these walls, within these doors. And recently, I think of the 9/11 and somewhat recently, and the doors of the church being open, or after the Annunciation school shooting, or the Hortman funeral that was held here, after George Floyd was killed, and most recently after the killing of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. The doors of our basilica remain open. Archbishops and pastors come and go. The basilica remains. It remains a landmark. It remains a living place of faith. So what we're asking, friends, I want to give you an update on where we are on the campaign. Nate Meeting, who's our managing director of mission advancement, will be in the back. You can talk to him. And then I'm going to invite you to discern what your gift might be. We hear often that it is God's command to be generous with the gifts that we have, because they're not ours. They're sourced in God and God's goodness. And that's what's occurred over the last 2 years in the first phase of the campaign. Tremendous generosity. I mean, generosity like I've never seen as a priest. So we are over $34 million raised. And to put that in perspective, the last time we did a full campaign, we raised $9 million over several years. This is extraordinary. And we're even a little beyond that too, but we want to have room to go, right? It's all raised and nobody's going to give anymore. So we're in really good shape. The tremendous generosity. And we are all stewards of the basilica, all of us, right? Pastor and parishioners and friends, all of us are stewards of the basilica. It will take all of us to reach our $45 million goal. It's attainable. It's within reach, and we want to do that by the end of our calendar year. We can do that. The plan is already there. The financing is solid. We are going to move downstairs after Easter, and they will have the basilica to fully restore in the next number of months. The good news is we have done tons of work on the exterior, sealing up the envelope of the church. I would say that this may be the driest the basilica has been in about 75 years. That's good news. And so again, tremendous generosity. We're more than 75% to our $45 million goal, and it's up for us and up to us to close it. Mother Teresa, what did she say? Talk about a woman of wisdom. She said, some people are called to do great things. I think of these really tremendous 7-figure gifts that we've received, a number of couples giving $2 million, the Pohlad family and foundation giving a very, very generous gift. And I want to mention this. Bill and Michelle Pohlad, who are our honorary co-chairs, have offered $1 million match. They will match gifts up to $50,000. So whatever you give will be matched dollar for dollar. That's tremendous generosity. And it's already off to a very good start. So what about me? What did I do? Well, I have a little itty-bitty salary. But in any event, my pledge is a 5-figure pledge, which represents the most I've given to any charity in my life. My father has always been known, and Dad, if you're watching, thank you. He made I believe it was $20,000 gift. He's only been in the basilica one time. Sorry to my siblings if you think the inheritance is being diluted, but in any event, it's a good cause. The Gillespie family, Joe Gillespie's family, gave a very generous gift. So what we're asking you to do is to discern what would be a sacrificial and meaningful gift for you. What represents that sacrifice? Because we're all called to stretch for this generational project. You'll be contacted in the coming weeks and invited to give sacrificially. And with all of us, we can get this done. We can restore America's first basilica. With imaginative faith, imagine Palm Sunday, Holy Week, Easter 2027. The stone clean, the windows taken care of and repaired, new flooring, newly constructed pews, and we're keeping these pews, which is a great thing. This is a restoration. You're going to see beautiful stenciling that was covered over in the 1950s, more light, better sound. All of that is going to come. So thank you for considering and prayerfully discerning your gift as we seek to restore this gem, our home, the Basilica.